So Regenesis is the process of midwifing and rebirthing the human condition on all levels. If we take a moment to consider the concept that it invokes an image of letting go of all that doesn't work personally, socially, and globally, and allowing that to be compost for an innovative approach to build, design, and architect the future that we truly want. We must focus on every aspect of the life experience, from spirituality to art and culture, the environment and stewardship of it, health and wellness of spirit, mind, and body, the idea of alternative economic and governance models, green and renewable energy, appropriate science and technology, independent media and communications, and peace and justice.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Regenesis. I'm your host, Michael DiMartino, and glad to be here. And we have a great show for you today because part of what we're going to be doing is so today on the show, we're going to be interviewing Mr. Bob Jayco. And as you know, here on Regenesis, we like to chat with the people and the projects and organizations that are key into helping to midwife the new earth, the new humanity, and the new paradigm with new design, specifically focused on the idea of regenerative design, co-creation, and collaboration. So I'm really happy today to have here live from Australia, Mr. Bob Jayco. So welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. And of course, you and I met a while back through RSTV, which is a business kind of incubator accelerator. And I know since we first met, you have a lot of great projects you're doing. But why don't we start from the beginning? Because right there in your name, you say co-creation global. And it's a big buzzword these days. A lot of people like to use it. But what does it mean to you? And how do we get people into the understanding of what co-creation truly is?
Okay, to fully understand the word co-creation, the words themselves incorporate cooperativity, cooperative intermingling, integration, putting together. However, that's the business look. That's the local idea of co-creation. Now, let's look at a human. A human being is a co-creator, but they split out. There's the unconscious co-creator. In other words, they don't know they are creating their reality. A conscious co-creator knows that everything in their experience, their world, and their relationship with the world and people in it, and all the events and circumstances that come out of that are them. So we are all co-creators. The difference being that conscious co-creation puts you in the driver's seat as an architect of your personal reality. And if you take the group and you have billions of people who are conscious co-creators, they are the navigators and the architects of the global reality. Now, I'm going to add one extension to that. We are all extensions of Source, God, and everything else. We define this as we are all one, unity consciousness, and you showed it on your preview. So in effect, what we do is when we come together with clear, mandated intention, we connect with God, Source, and we work with that energy specifically to transmute the old energies and bring in new realities. And basically, that's something that's not understood. We're not used to. We're used to living in these skin pockets, these skin things, and in silos. So consequently, the way of working is in a true creative source is foreign to us because we came here with the reason and the ability and the potential to understand we are God in physical form, and we are here. Everything we've been doing is the journey is about realizing we are that, realizing we have God forms. And once we are in that realization, that conscious realization, we are now working with God power. And that's really when the magic happens. That's really when the combination of many people has power beyond. It's a progressive mathematical progression. It's way beyond 10 or 100 million or even a billion, because it then progresses out into the world organically and in a way that affects everybody. So that's what co-creation is. It's a state of being.
It's so interesting because, you know, your co-creation media company is very much nuts and bolts and technology and brass tacks of these curriculums and all the work that you want to do in film and education. But it's fascinating because you're talking about, in order to do this, you really have to come initially from a spiritual perspective and to start to merge into, really, for some people, a whole different culture and understanding of how to co-create and collaborate than what you were saying, and what I understand too, the individuation. I mean, the age of hyper individuation that's happening right now, where so many people are in silos or working within a certain lane, or they might even have like a certain myopic perception of the world, that you're using this spiritual perception and understanding to actually achieve your goals. So how are some of the ways in your understanding of that? How do people get the ability to actually begin to understand how to co-create and how to really collaborate? Some practical tools that people can ponder and possibly utilize in their life.
That's an interesting question, because for me, it was being in a family where my father was really an alcoholic and used to beat me up a lot. And so I started talking to this voice, if you like. And that voice, I wasn't schizophrenic, I wasn't bipolar. It was very soft. And the word was love-based voice. But for most of my life, that voice became my navigation system, my tutor. I don't read books. I have the ability to get into the God library and get what I need to do what I
they call that
do.
the Akashic, right? That's one of the words they use.
That's a label, but it's the library of all life consciousness. I don't talk about. In fact, when I talk to Source God, it said, you know, labels are labels. It said we are infinite knowledge and infinite everything, but essentially we are love. And that's basically the absolutism. We constructed duality here as a process of evolving. So we evolve between, you know, we learn by experience. So in many ways, we are conduits of experience to source itself. How do you think it grows? How do you think it understands life? How do you think it generates new forms of life? It uses not only, we are all part of that conduit. We're experience generators, every one of us. Just think about 8 billion people generating experiences every microsecond, and that going back into the source of all life, and it becomes aware, and it expands, and it expands, and it expands, and it is infinite expansion into multiverses and places like that, places way beyond our comprehension. So there's a bigger picture behind this. I try to keep it to the local level rather than the multidimensional level or the interspatial level. We are here on the planet Earth to figure out who we are and then hopefully evolve to the point that we as a collective can live and work together without borders, silos, in love, harmony, and a cohesive direction of maintaining and improving the integrity of the planet and all of its residents. That's what we're here.
That's the message you won't hear on the corporate media for sure, right? It's
Sure.
a lot of politics and fear and trying to garnish viewership through shock and awe. So really, which is fascinating because your co-creation global work and what you're talking about, the spiritual and philosophical actualization of this, you're actually bringing into the 3D through co-creation media, which obviously will work with some of these concepts and topics you're working with. So let's shift for a minute from co-creation global to why are you because it can express itself in many ways, right? Arts and music and renewable technology. Some people like to garden. Some people work in other circular economics. Some people are painters. But so for you, why media? Why do you feel this is your path?
Because I was given the inspiration, given the idea, because essentially I'll come back to that original story of the young 10-year-old working with source consciousness and being given direction, information, inspiration. Now, that's my navigating system. It's also my inspirational system, and it's where I get given the ideas to do. Co-creation was given as a 50-year plan, not a 30-year plan, to actually conceptualize and put down on paper a plan to change consciousness over the next 50 years. Now, what happened to that is I often work with Source and ask questions. I said, well, how are we going to get the message out, and how are we going to bring 300 million people or 3 billion people or 7 billion people and show them and get them to experience, because it's not an intellectual exercise. They've got to feel the connection. So how do we do that? And so Source says this, it said media. And I said, well, that's a big thing, So they, we, them, us, there isn't a word. I just use very different vernaculars for Source. I call Source SOL, SOL, which is signals of love, basically, as my acronym for the God source that I work with. And it's basically source wisdom. So when it said media, it implied anything that can visually or optically or audibly get the attention of people so that they get the message. We are messengers and storytellers combined. So what we do, we bring together the story with a message. I call that conscious media, or media with a message. And the messages are, we are one, and it's consistent, the same message built, no matter what the story is, whether it's comedy or a dystopian future or sci-fi. The whole scenario of storytelling is about deliver the message in a way that's entertaining, and that includes education, and so people get it. Now, the theme under that is consistency, is keeping the message out in front of the people and with a consistent message. Now, if you come back to the way that kids under 6 learn, you put them in front of a cartoon and they watch the same cartoon day in, day out. And they learn, they pick up all the nuances and all the information from that cartoon, and they learn stuff. And that's repetitive and repetitive and repetitive. Humans actually can learn that way and do learn that way because we use it already in advertising and media and all of those sort of processes to get brands and products and services out into the world. Well, that's the reason for that is people are, if the story you are telling resonates heart-wise, you've combined the best of two worlds. You've entertained them, you've given them a message, but it inspires them to take action or to change in one form or another. We live in a
Well,
complicated world. Okay, sorry,
well, it's
Michael.
interesting because I've heard the word edutainment before, and I think you have other words you use, right? What are like infotainment?
Yeah, infotainment and entertainment. Edutainment is when you actually build courseware that can be delivered as cartoons or virtual reality experiences or
Hmm.
games. Instead of the traditional, watch a video, uh, ask a few questions, go out and practice. We use that in what is called immersive learning. Immersive learning is when you are immersed in the experience of that particular portion of the
Hmm.
course. And then you do it in little chunkable blocks, 7 minutes we use, and then you expand that. So people get the experience. An experience is 1,000 times more effective than simply reading a book, closing it, and then forgetting about it or losing the idea about it, but never ever putting that experience into practice. And we want people to actually practice the experience, because with the experience and the practice of it, they change their reality. It's very simple, not
Well,
easy.
as we can tell, we live in a information saturation generation, I call it, and
Yeah.
there is a lot of mindless entertainment out there. And I will say sometimes I like to just put on a movie and not think about anything or feel anything and just kind of be absorbed, especially these days with the cutting edge technologies that are coming out and special effects and now AI and all these other programs. But there's something to be said for that. But what you're trying to do, and it's interesting because I have this passion for looking at the meaning of words. So if we look at like television programming, right? So television, it's actually telling people what to think, what to feel, and what to experience. But when, let's say, it might be on the more nefarious side, it could be anything from subliminal advertising and working with the subconscious. There is a certain level of programming people a vision or a story that maybe we can call it propaganda, that maybe people behind the curtain want you to believe. But what you're talking about is this whole other realm of, like, if I'm assuming right, inspiring people, educating people, giving them this experience to come into a more harmonious, more compassionate, collaborative, and co-creative state of consciousness and actualization, which of course, it's easy without looking too far, is really what the world needs, not right now, not more individuation and divisiveness and negative programming.
Well, Michael, repetition of a message has been used in propaganda for hundreds of years. It's not a new technique. It's just simply how you use the message and how it becomes embedded in the subconscious mind. Therefore, it becomes more than a belief. It becomes an actual way of doing and also a way of being. If the message is consistent with the authenticity of that individual and their direction with life. Now, what I mean by that is that if that individual is opening up to seeing the world with different eyes, hearing it with different ears, and knowing their place in it as a co-creator, then that message has done its job. It has activated them to become more than they were originally. And if we can do this not only on an adult scale, what about turning all of our kids into geniuses? Every one of them, by putting them through a different form of education system that is not delivering chaff for the industrialists and workers, but these kids are built as the ability to be their own autonomous agents. They decide what they want to do, but essentially they are totally connected to God's source. All information, all inspiration, all knowledge comes through 1 billion kids. What would this world look like in say 2060 if we could change the way we educate kids? Forget about, what we're doing to our planet now. We can reverse all that. But we've got to get to a point where we can build upon that new form of human. It's a new human, a new expanded human, a new conscious human. Now you start with children and they become adults and they become infused into every area of society, into every skill set that you can dream about. And so how do they become the influencers and the catalysts for change in their own countries and also globally? Because that 1 billion group is all interconnected. They will talk, they will interface, they will work together as co-creative, cohesive, conscious, co-creative groups in order to initiate the changes that are necessary in order to see this planet maybe go through a second renaissance.
Interesting, because in regenerative design, we call it a regenesis, which I know is a word that Buckminster Fuller used. And he said, instead of fighting the problems, it's good to come up with new and innovative alternatives and solutions. So in your co-creation media, could you kind of dig a little bit into the nuts and bolts of what actually your vision is? What would you like to create? What types of technologies or platforms? And maybe someone who's watching this video who is a media person or has a certain skill set will feel inspired, because you are, again, co-creation global, and you are starting this kind of a production house and collaborative alliance of people to put out stuff. But what kind of content and how do you plan on actualizing that through various technologies and platforms?
To describe that, I need to break co-creation global and co-creation media into two interconnected components. Co-creation global is a delivery system for all our content. So if we're doing courses, the courses go out through Co-Creation Global, which is a non-profit. Okay, Co-Creation Media is, for obvious reasons, a for-profit. And basically we build film, television, education games. We have a Metaversity listed for this is a platform where people who have courses that want to use that particular medium, it's like a metaverse. We call it a Metaversity, Co-Creation Metaversity. And they can drop their courses into Co-Creation Media. Students can come in as 3D avatars of themselves. Tutors are avatars. The rooms are delivery systems for the courses. And we have, consider it a digital university in its full length, except it starts at the age of 5. Okay, we start at kiddie university and we take it all the way through to 5 to 50. We can do anything else. The course curriculum inside the Metaversity are immersive media, virtual reality, augmented reality, cartoons, games, whatever the delivery system is would be placed inside the university. So we start with a course and we build out. So we start with a traditional curriculum, we convert that to a storyboard, and then we convert that to a game if necessary. However, that's one component. That's the education component. On top of that, with the advent of AI, and I will tell you that in the next 12 to 24 months, every person with a garage and a computer will be able to produce fully immersive, fully featured films in their back garage with some of the AIs that are coming out of Google and out of OpenAI and Anthropic and a few others. Now, That is already on the drawing board. People have seen the first cuts, if you like, of these technologies. I will predict that within 24 months, there will be complete turnaround of Hollywood, dinosaur, and people will be able to produce short films, long films, using AI blended and hybridized systems. Unfortunately, it may mean the demise of traditional media, because everything that has ever been captured on film is out there in the internet. Whether you want a scene from the Sahara or a jungle scene, it's all out there. You don't need stages. You don't need green screens. You just simply pull it together and you tell the AI whatever you want in background. If you want actors, now actors can be copyrighted. So what is an actor on a video? It's bits of pixels. Okay, so what if you took a nose, your nose, my ears, your beard, your hair, my hair, and we provided a composite. That is not copyrightable because it is a composite. Now I can add different voices. You know, you can talk in an Australian accent, I can talk in an American accent, or we can both talk in Swahili. And we have the ability to produce actors that look like this and produced on film. So they're overlaid onto the film. And once you've got the storyboard and the script, no longer do you need directors. Okay, because you self-direct. You can even get the AI to do the directing. It's all going to be done. You'll have hundreds of guys in garages producing films. How good they are is a matter of the storyline and the storyboard.
Well,
it could be.
Well, it's interesting because I watched part of the Oscars, and that was a big discussion for, these blockbuster films, and also people who are producing these, $250 million, $300 million films, blockbusters. So, maybe in some ways some of those will exist, but I know there was a big discussion with the artists about, some of these celebrities, and like you said, it's now copyrightable, about how their images are being used. I know there was a show recently that came out that was like Michael Jackson as a hologram concert where you could actually go see him sing and dance. But I think what's really interesting too is as we start to breach into this, a lot of people thought that robotics and AI would first decimate the manufacturing industry. And we're seeing already with things like Da Vinci and other platforms, even, people who are graphic artists, physical artists, painters, that they're already being highly, influenced by this new rollout of these new technologies and AIs. And what was amazing is the film that won for best effects was a group of, I think it was 20 people from Japan with very little budget. They had done the Godzilla -1 film, and the level of production for such a small budget, and the impact of the film and the quality of the film was really, it won an Oscar for best effects film and put all these other major Hollywood, $500 million blockbusters really to shame.
Yeah, Michael, think about this as steam engine replacing horse and carts, and possibly the day of the big movie studios is nearing a major change, and they pretty much know it. So what it's doing is giving power back to the people to produce stories in a medium that everybody can see and watch. It depends on where they want to deliver it, whether it's going to go through traditional streaming platforms or just stick it on YouTube and charge $1 for it, whatever it is. Right. But the cost of producing a 2-hour film in that way will come down to less than $50,000, if that. That wowould be time and people looking at and putting this all together. An AI can build a 10-minute segment of a film, because imagine that in the old days they had the film and they had it in chunks. They can build that in 10 minutes if you tell it what to do, what environment to be in, what the backgrounds are going to be, what the characters are going to do, add sound and overlay, all that, the AI can build that in 10 minutes. So if you've got all these 10-minute segments, it won't take you too long to produce a full-blown film. The actors are,
Right.
you just hybridize the actors, and you want, different color, different actors from different ethnic backgrounds. You can actually have them talking in different languages with subtitles, as you do in traditional films. Everything that's in traditional media is going to be available to anybody who wants to play in this film. It's giving power back to people, and it also is teaching them and allowing them to experience new forms of creativity, which they would never, ever had in the old paradigm. No,
Wow.
you can't produce an Avatar film because you don't have the equipment, you don't have the background, you don't have the money. But today, in the next 2 years, you'll be able to go to Blender, which is totally AI driven, and you can produce your own version of Avatar. Okay.
Well, it's interesting you said the movie Avatar. I've been working on a screenplay and a book for decades, and then I suffered a fire and had to do a rewrite, and I've been working with some script writers. So we had finished the actual writing of the book, the story and the screenplay and the character Bible, but now it's like, okay, how do I put together a graphic novel where I can have, 20 high level illustrations in the book to bring that visual element to it. And over the last 2 weeks, a colleague of mine actually in 2 weeks created, uh, 18 amazing full color plates that we're going to use in the book. And we're looking to move it towards a movie. But it's interesting you said Avatar, because obviously it was a film that kind of broke through as a paradigm film that actually had a spiritual message. It taught people about the elements and spirituality and meditation and the chakras and Kundalini. And it had all these other deeper messages than just pure, like, watching SpongeBob SquarePants. But what's interesting is the founder and creator of that project, him and I share a name, is Michael DiMartino. So
Okay.
I'd actually worked on the story, decades ago before Avatar came out. So there's some interesting parallels, especially, we live in an age of superheroes and what's your superpower. So we're kind of playing with some of those archetypes, but it is very compelling to think that this film could be self-produced over the next year or two. Although I'm definitely starting to shop around and finding some big players who maybe want to take it to the next level. But yeah, it's a fascinating time where, everyone has an iPhone, everyone can do photos, everyone can do video, everyone can create music and loops. And it's just fascinating. So with the little bit of time we have left, what's your vision for the future of co-creation media? And, as what would you like your legacy to be? And in relationship to, Regenesis, rebirthing, new humanity, new paradigm, new design, what would you like your legacy to be?
When I leave the planet, I would like Co-Creation Global and Co-Creation Media to be the biggest agency for the development of media across the board. That's books, TV, edutainment, infotainment, and everything else in the consciousness movement, in the consciousness space. Co-Creation Media, I would like to see the university, the metaversity appear digitally and locally as a physical university around the world. And I would like to see our education system available for kids in every village and every suburb around the world, teaching kids that they are source consciousness in physical form, and teaching them in a way that their genius is opened up and retained, so they move into a space of being adults. If I leave a legacy, when I got the download for Co-Creation Global, it wasn't just a 30-year or a 50-year mission. It was intended that Co-Creation Global will stay on this planet, if it survives itself, for over 3,000 years. and it was here to stay. And my job is to set up the co-creation global and then hand over the mantle to younger people who will take it forward. We have a very precise message. We are keeping the message clean and non-polluted from outside ideas and everything else. It's all been inducted and videoed. So it's not a message in the sense of a Bible or a Torah or any other document. It is 26 principles of co-creation. Simple, easy to understand, but a little bit more challenging to apply. And that's why we're delivering it in these various different forms around the world. People learn in different ways. So we need to basically be able to prompt them, if I can use an AI term, in different ways to understand the characteristics that they haven't yet discovered in themselves. And in many ways, what we're here is to move people away from the suffering and the struggle, which is built around around limitations, impregnated culturally and imprinted locally and imprinted by unconscious design of the parents and the culture and the country itself, to a point where we can then give these kids the autonomy to hear what their future is themselves. In other words, they're going to be their own agents of change and not be influenced by anything else.
Wow.
But if we can do that, we're going to have a different world. The funny thing about it is, Mike, when I got this, I was so overwhelmed with the size of this challenge. I actually sat on it for 11 months, procrastinating and saying, where am I going to start? Where do I start? And then a lady came along and said, I've got a magazine. I said, good start. I'll start there. And I built it from there on and moved forward. But what I have is a covenant with Source God. Whenever I need something, I ask for it and I get it. Okay? Whenever I need resources, whether that's people, situations, conditions, connections, money, I get it. But it's all about timing. And so what we're building now is basically a cohesive infrastructure and a platform that has tentacles, or will have tentacles, connecting lots of things. And your Earthstock movement is amazing, and we're really very honoured to be part of that journey with all of you guys. What we can bring to the table is the understanding and the experience of how we actually co-create, rather than the mental aspects of co-creation, which is a word bandied around through businesses all over the place. Okay.
Right.
It's
So out of curiosity, as we get towards the end, you said there's 26 principles. You want to just briefly share some of those?
Well, the principles are I actually don't have them. I channeled them and they're written down, but they're written in stone. I can remember some of them for the principles relating to, it's not a thou shalt as a principle. It's a way of being in acceptance, love, gratitude, choosing to struggle or choosing to suffer are not, they're options that we are subconsciously think we have to live with. But we were never designed to live in a world where there's inequality, there is suffering, there is struggle. In fact, our course is interesting because it was reshaped by a young man in India who's now Associate Professor of Communications at Karachi University. He said, let's start with struggle and suffering, because that's where most of mankind is. And let's move them through the journey of understanding how to release the baggage. I think about struggle as a boat with 10 anchors over the side, and you try to move forward and move the boat forward, and it won't move, or it moves very little because you're dragging all these anchors with you. I said, well, look, here's an axe, cut the ropes, let it go. So simple. And so if we can release struggle, we release all of the components that formed struggle. And therefore, we have given ourselves the freedom to produce, and here's the word, and find with us that treasure which we call infinite possibilities. And that's where we are. We're infinite possibilities.
Well, I think that's an amazing exclamation point to finish our time together. If people would like to get in touch with you, do you have currently a website, or are you on a certain platform people would like to reach out to you?
Michael, our platform is www.co-creationglobal.com. Okay.
Fantastic. Well,
people can find me. I'm on Facebook. Just look up bobjayco.facebook and you'll find my profile. I'm also on LinkedIn. So go find me on LinkedIn, say hi.
And soon to probably be on TikTok for the kids with
we're already on TikTok.
Oh, you are? Fantastic. Yeah, you have to. There's a whole generation out there that need 60 to 90-second sound bites. So that's a whole new frontier to explore.
We're already on TikTok, and we're now ramping up our YouTube channel. We actually already have 185 video shorts already built to get out into the world.
I better do my homework. Holy moly.
Just sitting in the warehouse.
I'm falling behind the curve, Bob. But I want to say it's truly an honor to talk with you, and for the work that you do. Deep appreciation and respect, and also for our developing friendship. It's been great to have some of our 2-hour chats about the world and the universe and these types of things. So we look forward to what you're going to continue to put out for messaging and produce. We're going to be honored to have you as part of the Earthstock Summit. And I just want to thank you for taking some time there in the land down under to share a little bit about the incredible work that you're bringing. I call them the lions. The lions are coming to the round table to bring these solutions and these new platforms. Well, and that's a big part of what Regenesis is about.
One of my little side, it's not ego, because for me, I'm just plain old Bob doing a job. I have no other agenda except to see humanity reach its ultimate destination, which is another renaissance, and to discover its true potential. If that happens, even in half my lifetime, and I'm 76, so I'm going to try and hit the 120 mark if I can. And if that happens, I'll be happy to leave the planet in good hands in a way that we can see the potential of this planet realized and not what's going on at the moment. We need to stop those. We don't need to do anything. We can encourage people to think and behave in a different way if they find their hearts. Just that
was the message of the Avatar. I just watched the new Netflix 8-episode series. Avatar. So you in your own way, sir, may I say, are an avatar. Brings the message through to help cure the world of all the areas that were unloving and uncompassionate and maybe deficient, and to help bring to awareness things we can't see. And I really love what you talked about, bringing this educational content, not just as a commodity, but to children around the world. And I actually was on a call this week from Uganda with a school there that was looking for support. And like, as you know, they need curriculums, they need the information, and not just the information, they need
delivery systems, they need the internet, they need phones, they need all that infrastructure. That's why the global rollout is going to involve billions of dollars And we hope that there are 5% of the billionaires on the planet that are awake enough to help us out in that process.
There we go. So start scratching out those checks and sending your support. We have to kind of we have to
We don't
level
have checks
things
in
up.
Australia. We just got rid of checks. We'll take
Oh.
digital.
But we don't want the central bank digital currency either. We don't want
No,
yeah.
We'll
It's
ship
a
it out in
labyrinth.
gold. Yeah.
Great.
Anyway,
Well,
Michael, thank you. Look, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to come back next time or anytime if you want to talk about this sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're weaving our hoops together in our communities, and happy to continue to support. You know, I do find a lot of people wear so many hats. It's nice to find people like yourself that are really spearheading a certain aspect of that, because I know, yeah, it's time that we all have to find our superpower, and we all have to do our part, like you said, and be inspired to help make the change. Or like I like how you say it in kind of a Taoist sentence way. We don't have to make the change; we just have to embody it. It's already there. It's our true nature. We just have to allow it to come to the surface. And
yeah,
right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, and thank
Thanks,
your family for
it's a pleasure.
having some time with us.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Have a great night, Bob.
Thank you. Okay.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Bye for now. Bye, everybody.